Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something absolutely incredible and profoundly intimate. We're going to examine a raw, deeply confessional letter written by a 35-year-old man named Jeremy. Now, what you really need to know right from the jump is the context here. This document was originally written as an apology letter. Jeremy is actually reading this out loud, through tears, directly to his therapy support group. He is literally apologizing to them for taking up their time, just for daring to speak about his own needs. So as we walk through this, I really want you to keep that image in your head. We are witnessing a man desperately trying to find his voice after a lifetime of being told he shouldn't have one.
Does your outside voice ever say yes when your inside voice says no? I mean, really think about that for a second. Have you ever felt that disconnect? This exact question was the phrase that completely shattered Jeremy's defenses. It broke through years and years of carefully constructed emotional walls and brought him to tears right in front of a friend. It's such a simple question, right? But for someone who has spent their entire life silencing their inside voice just to survive, well, it hits like a freight train.
Section 1. The Dance Mode Dilemma.
Okay, let's dive into this, because you're probably not going to believe what sparked Jeremy's massive psychological breakthrough. It didn't come from some deep philosophical text or an intense flashback. No, it came from an incredibly unexpected place. He was just sitting in a friend's living room, watching an episode of the children's cartoon, Bluey. The setup of the episode is super simple. The kid character gets 3 dance modes, basically moments where they have total autonomy to force their parents to dance. The parents endured 2 of them, but before the 3rd one, they bribe the kid with $20 to skip it. The child takes the money, says yes, but is visibly sad. They felt completely robbed of the joy of choosing, you know? They gave up their autonomy.
So as Jeremy is reading this letter to his group, he explains how watching this silly cartoon just caused something inside him to snap. He suddenly realized how often he had traded his own inner desires for outward compliance. But obviously the stakes for him were so much higher than a cartoon dance. This visceral reaction wasn't actually about the TV show at all. It was like a mirror, reflecting his deeply buried habit of suppressing his inner voice just to keep the peace, just to please others, just to survive.
Which brings us to Section 2, the cost of compliance.
That cartoon made Jeremy realize that saying no carried a terrifying weight for him. He lived in this deep, constant fear that if he ever expressed what he truly wanted, he'd be labeled selfish or inconsiderate or just undeserving of trust. You know that old societal cliche we're all fed, right? Blood is thicker than water? The expectation of unwavering family loyalty? Well, Jeremy's tragic lived reality was the exact opposite. For him, family were the people allowed to hurt him the most, and he felt obligated, literally compelled, to let them hurt him because he truly believed that if he didn't just endure it, no one else would ever love him. Stepping away from the abuse meant abandoning the only connection he had in the world.
He's standing there explaining to his therapy group why he struggles so incredibly hard to just speak up in their sessions. The emotional invalidation he faced growing up was absolute. His basic human needs were weaponized against him. Whenever he brought up a grievance, he wasn't heard. He was mocked. He was told stories of how, as an infant, his mother used to just pop a bottle or pacifier in his mouth to shut him up every time he cried. From his very first days on Earth, the lesson was crystal clear. Your needs are a nuisance. Your voice is just whining. So keep quiet.
Section 3, the day everything stopped. Okay, I need to prepare you for this next part, because the events that permanently cemented Jeremy's silence are absolutely harrowing. In the months leading up to May 16, 2000, there was a bitter, unrelenting divorce and custody battle going on. His father had actually explicitly confided in Jeremy that he was going to kill Jeremy's mother. And Jeremy, who was just a little boy, did exactly what you're supposed to do. He reported this to the police, to judges, to attorneys. But nobody did anything. Then came a Little League baseball game in broad daylight.
Gunfire erupted at the field. His father murdered his mother and her boyfriend, Jim, right there at the baseball game, while Jeremy had to watch helplessly. He remembers Jim drowning in blood, his mother running around her car as his father chased her, shooting again and again.
I want to read Jeremy's exact haunting words here. The last image of my family went up in smoke, my last desires with it. In that single, blurry, chaotic moment, amidst the sheer terror of the crowd, Jeremy lost absolutely everything. He lost his parents, he lost his safety, and quite literally, he lost his voice.
1 year, for an entire 12 months following this unimaginable trauma, Jeremy stopped speaking completely. The only sounds he could even manage to get out were one-word answers or just screaming the words, "stop," or "I don't know." The trauma was so heavy that it forced his inside voice to lock the doors and throw away the key.
Section 4. Living with the Echoes.
Now, decades have passed since that horrible day in 2000, right? But this extreme psychological injury still dictates his day-to-day existence. In his letter to the group, Jeremy is actively apologizing for what his physical body does when he simply tries to connect with them during therapy. He masks a stutter. Sometimes his brain just completely shuts down, leaving these long, agonizing pauses when he tries to explain things. He tries to use a mental recorder to remember what people are saying, but even then, his eyes glaze over, making it look like he isn't paying attention at all. His stomach clenches, his teeth grit, his body is physically reacting to the perceived danger of simply being present in a conversation.
This physical and emotional isolation gets so intense that Jeremy actually views himself as a sociopath. Now, not because he wishes harm on anyone, far from it, but because human connection feels so entirely foreign to him. He feels forced to sit on the sidelines and observe other people's friendships and families flourishing, having to mentally rationalize how empathy even works. He shrinks into the background, completely terrified that taking up any space or asking for any attention is going to make him seem narcissistic or selfish.
Section 5. Pancakes over blood. But remember, this entire letter is a breakthrough. Reaching the climax of his confessional, looking at his peers, Jeremy, now 35 years old, shares this quietly triumphant realization: pancake syrup is thicker than blood. It is such a brilliant, slightly humorous inversion of that toxic phrase that kept him trapped for so long. By this new logic, he realizes that pancakes, simple, chosen comforts, gentle moments, intentional friendships, are vastly more important than the blood ties that literally brought him nothing but pain and silence.
He looks at the people in the room with him and shares his new goals. He wants real gifts for his birthday. He wants real friends who actually notice his physical triggers, friends who know when the music is too loud for him. He wants to learn a communication style that allows him to open up so people finally have the chance to be good to him. And most importantly, he wants to be able to accept that love without feeling like he's somehow stealing it from them. He is finally asking them for permission to take up space.
He wraps up his reading to the support group with this deeply moving, tearful plea. Because even in his moment of supreme courage, he's still apologizing. He's terrified they're going to think he's just playing the victim to get sympathy. He literally asks for forgiveness for his own trauma responses, the blank stares, the internal shutdowns. But he leaves them with one desperately important truth. His outside may look frozen, but inside, he is intensely, actively listening. They are important to him.
So, what does this all mean for us? When someone has been silenced by unimaginable pain, like Jeremy, their attempts to speak might look confusing. It might look like blank stares, or stuttering, or convoluted apologies. So how do we, as friends, as partners, or even just bystanders, hold space for that profound silence? How do we ensure our active listening is strong enough to wait out the echoes of their trauma, giving them the safety they need to finally let their inside voice say yes? Because while it takes immense courage to heal, it also takes incredible empathy to sit in the quiet and just let someone find their words. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today.